Good morning, everybody. I'm Maddie Cole, the founder of Flexpo and Flexpo Business Event Series. I'm joined today by Susan Fulton, who is the Director of People at Home Group. Home Group are one of the largest housing associations in the UK. And actually, I believe that you are ranked the leading housing association in the UK. Is that right, Susan?
Well, we are ranked sixth in the UK for Great Place to Work for Women and seventh overall for organisation in the UK. So super proud of that.
Excellent. No, thank you. And I'd like to talk to you more about that as we go on. So Home Group are supporting Flexpo this year. They're one of our exhibitors. And we've asked Susan to talk to us today about why it's such a great place to work and how she's achieved that through a variety of culture change and the policies and frameworks that she uses within the organisation. So Susan, if we could kick off with you, I think what's really interesting about your role there is that you didn't start with HR, did you? So actually a lot of your people management experience has come through other routes. So if you could talk to us a bit more about that, that would be great.
Yes, that's right. I guess I've got a bit of a checkered history in terms of careers and sectors. So I started off as a building society manager, so in financial services. Then I moved to manage contact centres for large telecom communications companies. So lots of people management experience, which was a great grounding to really listen and understand what people wanted. And then I moved into HR and OD in the second half of my career. So yes, I like a bit of variety.
Thank you. And you've been with Home Group for, is it 12 years now?
Yes, 12 years. I only went there for a year. I'm on a contract, but I just got social housing and that social purpose bug, and I've never looked back since.
That's great, thank you. And I think that's true of a lot of your people, isn't it? That actually they feel very aligned to the values of the business and the work that you do. And interestingly, I thought when we were talking earlier, you were saying about how Home Group has really evolved as an employer in your time, but that a lot of that has come through from the great work that you do with your customers effectively. And that's kind of ricocheted through into then how you engage your people. So we'd love to know more about that.
Yeah, Home Group, as you said, a large housing association. And I think sometimes there's a bit of a mystique. What is a housing association? So we have, houses for social purpose. So we rent houses. But actually, the bigger part of our organisation is social care, health and social care. So we work with customers who have, challenges around mental health, autism, disabilities, learning disabilities, and people just really wanting to get their lives back on track. So a lot of work around that, which again is what attracts a lot of colleagues to help through vocational aspirations as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And you were saying earlier we were talking about flexibility, which we'll come on to. Obviously, that's the key trend of everything that we talk about. But you were saying how you were doing great work and working really hard to become very inclusive with the people that you work kind of for Home Group. And then that kind of led you then to look around your own organisation and think we need to apply the same within this organisation. And that's how you've become such an inclusive employer, which in turn leads to being a very diverse employer. So it'd be really interesting to talk more about that if we can.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of our social purpose, draws people to the many varied and diverse careers we have here in Home Group, whether that's customer facing or whether they're support services. But I guess it just occurred to us, massive focus on customers with all of these very diverse needs. So why wouldn't you apply that to your colleague base? Lots of our colleagues at various times in their lives have challenges, need greater flexibility. And so the learning from the lived experience of customers and colleagues with lived experience has really helped us shape what's right for colleagues. And it's not about one size fits all, it's listening and being truly inclusive. And the more inclusive that you are, that helps drive diversity of practice, policy, and just how we do things.
Thank you. That's really, really interesting. And you said something lovely earlier about how you believe that actually inclusive workforces are far more aligned to your vision and purpose and just to create a happier workspace, which I thought was a really kind of nice place to be part of that team. Also, when we started this call, I mentioned to you that I said to your team, so not your HR team, but kind of marketing and other people in the business, how amazing that you are such an inclusive, flexible employer and how that is quite rare. Even, you know, the situation that we're in now, that everybody has been remotely working, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're working for a flexible employer. We're yet to find out. But what I loved about your team was that they said, oh no, it's just always been like this. And it's obviously such a happy kind of acceptance of that's the way that work should be, that your team are kind of nicely unaware of all the hard work that's gone on in the background to create that culture. So I'd love to talk more about that, about exactly how you've achieved that, because I mean, you're in such a great place now, but for any HRD that's kind of starting at the start of this journey, any tips that you can give, any kind of tricks, any tools, we'd love you to share that.
Yeah, and I think for us, our journey was starting around the clarity of our culture and our values, and getting our chief exec and our top team to really lead that piece of work, which they absolutely did, and had that vision. And I think when we've got that clarity and almost what's the freedom, and within that framework to start discussing it, I think that was the cornerstone. But I think that whole journey has been very much something around, for me, listening and allowing and involving colleagues to have a really strong voice. So I think whatever we look at, we're quite a democratic organisation as a culture. So colleagues do have a lot to say, and we absolutely expand all of our communication channels so that colleagues are involved, whether that's informal discussions, whether it's through workplace chats, whether it was through face-to-face sessions or now Teams sessions that we're all used to. So we've used a myriad of different routes. And if we, can't immediately do something, there's a dialogue around it, so that it's always involved and not a top-down, do as we say. That's just not home group. So it has been, top tips to everyone: clarity, senior leadership sponsorship, and strong colleague voice throughout, using lots of different channels, because it's, again, it is a diverse workforce. We have colleagues from Dundee to the southwest and Cornwall and everywhere in between. So it really is making sure people have that opportunity and don't feel excluded, so that they can have what suits them in their role.
I think that's really key. Thank you. And we've been hearing a lot about how we need to move away from this kind of parent-child mentality, which just doesn't breed good feeling among employees. So yeah, great to hear you kind of validate that and say that that's how you've done it. And now you are quite a spread team. I mean, I've had the pleasure of going to your head office, which isn't like an office. It's such a lovely place to be, and I think you've done really well with workspace as well. So people kind of want to be there. But just talk to us about how you've managed to kind of steer such a big ship and keep everybody engaged with that when you do have such a scattered workforce, if you like. You've got lots of frontline workers, for example, and you've got offices all over the place. So how do you do that and keep everybody engaged with the motion and everybody on board?
I think for me, it is having that structure with a small s around, making sure that everyone's got a voice, but not a total scattergun approach. So with our culture programme, for example, we asked people from the organisation who would like to be part of the culture programme, because initially it was a face-to-face session, and we do that in inductions now. So we upskilled colleagues from the organisation, including lots of our senior managers, to present this programme of culture so that it was clear and consistent. Then we asked colleagues around the organisation to be values ambassadors to support that. And we have various forums. So we have a colleague forum who help us look at our pay awards, flexible working, and our policies. We use informal mechanisms, and particularly use digital and tech. And we've used digital and tech systems, and I'm not always deluxe, for a long time, so that people can have a say. And I think for me, it's giving people tools to do the job effectively, so that they can have that flexibility, so that, the window to have a voice isn't 9 to 5. If you're a concierge and you're working at 11 o'clock in the evening, you've still got access to information and to have your say. Same way that you would if you were working there, during the day at 11 o'clock. So irrespective of location, diversity of role, everyone has tools to do the job, to join in into flexibility and to the dialogue.
That's really interesting, and presumably also put you in a really good position when lockdown happened, because you already had those communication tools.
That's
which,
right.
If you don't mind me asking, if it's privileged information, please don't feel the need to share, but is there a top technology? Is there something that you think is kind of pivotal to the business, or a top three?
I think what made a big shift for us, given we're so dispersed, was 3 years ago we implemented workplace technology,
Right.
which is Facebook's product. That, to be fair, had mixed views because I think with some people Facebook is Marmite. However, I don't know if I should say that.
No, I think you can. It's
Lots
true.
of colleagues then got on board with that because what it also gave us in terms of messages to colleagues was the ability to do quick, snappy videos
Yeah.
rather than lots of word and text. And that made people come alive. So, we have our chief exec doing regular updates, the senior leaders, we have colleagues. And I remember when I've been communicating colleague pieces and asking for input, whether it's about flexible working, benefits, learning, whatever it may be. I remember once one of our managers said to me, "We always knew who you were, Susan, but now you're really real." And I think that touched me. I thought it was quite amusing, but
Yeah.
strong message. It is about being authentic
Yes.
and getting the message out, and you're a real person. And I think it gets rid of bureaucracy and hierarchy. And I think
Yeah.
that's really important in flexible organisations. We are all in this together. We have diverse and different needs, but ultimately we are all working for one organisation and we've all got a part to play.
I think that's so true and really powerful, and how nice to hear that from your employees. And actually, if a lot of the feedback that we've had from employees over the past few months is that they've loved that human element. They've loved the fact that there's been a CEO message from his kitchen table with his dog in the background,
Yeah.
somebody that previously was kind of almost untouchable.
Yeah.
But that's in certain organisations that's been a fallout of COVID. That's not deliberate. So I think the fact that Home Group were doing this way before that, out of choice, just shows what a forward-thinking organisation you are. So I don't want to keep you for too long. I would like to talk to you about the roles at Home Group for our candidates. But before I do that, I'd just like to just expand upon Flex, because the kind of the underpinning really of everything we've been talking about is flexible working. But why did you kind of embark upon this? Why is Flex so important to you?
Yeah. I think the world of work's changed so much. We've got multi-generational people working in organisations, and again, one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah.
So a lot of colleagues, doing very diverse roles, we recognised need at different times. And I think for us, we call it agile working, and it's not about a start and finish time. It's about what happens in between, and I guess just recognising that as an organisation, you can absolutely accommodate people who've got caring responsibilities, whether that's children and or elderly parents, drop-offs, pick-offs. And I think the more that you can be flexible, and I think once you start that journey, it is the art of the possible, you get much more out of people in terms of their engagement, their service to their customers, and people just go the extra mile. They do anyway in Home Group, but when they know, when the chips are down, when they need help, an organisation isn't going to demand, we need 5 minutes back from you, or have a separate contract, which fills me with dread. People just work and want to be attracted to that sort of an organisation, and retention's far better. And certainly in a pandemic, you really need colleagues to continue to be applying for roles, because we've got frontline roles with customers, and wanting long-term careers so that they can diversify, and knowing they've got the flexibility to be themselves. I think is just, you can see it on our engagement surveys and what colleagues anecdotally tell us. It's so important not to feel it's about presenteeism and clock watching.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can vouch for that, having, met numerous members of your team. Everybody's so engaged and so comfortably themselves at work, but really believes in the mission and, just loves being part of the team. So I can vouch for that. Thank you. I wasn't going to, I know I said I was going to ask you about the roles, but I'm just interested because one of the biggest challenges that we're often told about from HRDs is the mixture and the stamping out inconsistencies across the business. So I think you're really interesting because you do have an awful lot of field workers and kind of frontline workers, as well as having a big section of office workers. How do you offer the same flexibility to both sides of the coin? Because they're such different roles, and obviously with some frontline workers, they need shift patterns, that kind of thing. You need them at certain times. So how do you make sure that everybody feels they've been equally treated and gets the same amount of flex?
Yeah, we have an overarching approach in terms of our policy and our framework. And I think it is tailoring it to local needs as well, because I think there's a perception that as a frontline worker, it's worse. And actually, frontline workers have flex around their customers and customer needs. So I think flexibility means different things to different people. So I think we want equality in terms of fairness of treatment. And I think it's also down to upskilling managers to be able to have brilliant conversations with people to make sure that the dialogue's fair, and they feel they've got local empowerment, and can flex it in different ways, to suit different regions and different customer bases. So I think, it can't be one size fits all, because 2/3 of our team are frontline and 1/3 probably are more traditional support services. But I think it's recognising that, and I think just pushing the boundaries as well. So whilst it, maybe shifts, it's not always working 5 days a week. It's not always working the same times. And it's sharing shifts with colleagues so that people can, have preferences, which is what we do in our contact centre and have done for a long, long time. So it's listening, again, engaging, and consistently, I guess, evolving, not standing still, I think is important as well, because customers' needs change, as do colleagues' needs.
Absolutely, and presumably, by having such a great culture as well, your managers then feel empowered to be able to deal with that. And you can't. How could you have a flexible working policy that is one size fits all? That's the whole point of Flex, isn't it? Yeah. So thank you so much. Before I let you go, if I may, from a candidate perception, obviously you're exhibiting with us at Flexpo. We'd love to talk about the types of roles that people can expect.
Yes, so the lots of roles that we have nationally are particularly in our operational teams, and they're around health and social care. So support workers that look after colleagues and customers who have mental health challenges, learning disabilities, autism. So a massive expansive roles there, from support worker to registered managers. We have CQC services. So lots of career paths. CQC? Sorry, that is jargon. So Care Quality Commission.
Yeah.
So lots of registered care roles.
Yeah.
So a plethora of learning pathways and career pathways there, from frontline to management roles. Then we have development roles, so project managing, where we build for social housing and outright sale. And then we have, I guess, more support service roles. So, we have lots of digital roles in our IT teams. That's always an expanding area, really exciting. Finance, HR roles, business development and growth roles, legal roles. So I think any role that you can probably think of, given the diversity we have, but I'd be really interested in people wanting to develop roles in that social care arena. And we have a fantastic apprenticeship programme as well that covers all of those areas. So talent pipelines and career management, if that's what you're after, I think Home Group would have something to offer.
Excellent, thank you very much. And just in terms of, we often have candidates come along that want to change direction, so they're looking to retrain, upskill, completely evolve what they're doing. Are you open to that? Is there kind of scope to grow within a role?
Absolutely, and I think it comes back again to flexibility, and not boxing yourself into one career route. So I think there's a lot of transferable skills we find when people come to us for interview or informal discussions, that skills you might think were just relevant to one sector. Actually, if it's communication, relationship building, digital skills, they cover a myriad of roles in Home Group.
Thank you very much. That's really interesting. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that's great for our candidates to hear as well. Susan, I won't keep you any longer. I feel like Home Group's a real hidden gem, because I knew you were a great organisation, but I didn't know half of what you've told me today. And I just think you're way ahead of the curve. So I'm sure there's lots of HRDs as well that can learn an awful lot from the work that you've done. So thank you so much for your time. And we really look forward to seeing you at the show in November.
Yes, take care. Lovely to talk to you.
Thank you.